Baby Reindeer, Martha, Part 5. Hello, I'm H.G. Tudor. I'm continuing the examination of the character Martha from Baby Reindeer, an individual that's based upon an apparent real person. I've been taking you through everything that has occurred in the episodes of Baby Reindeer for two purposes. The first, to reinforce the importance of the examination of as much evidence as possible over a sustained period to make a determination, and also for the purposes of causing you to think about what you're hearing, for you to assess the evidence as you go along. I also appreciate that there are some people who have not watched the series, and therefore it's helpful for them to have as much detail as to what has occurred in the series relayed to them by me. It's important to do these things properly by an examination for fullness of the evidence. So we shall continue in doing so. You'll recall that where we left off, Donnie and Terry were at a restaurant, and there was a frantic voicemail from his parents. It transpires that Martha had contacted them, suggesting that Donnie had been involved in a car accident. That, of course, is a wholly unpleasant thing to do, which demonstrates an absence of emotional empathy for his parents. As a consequence of this, Donnie goes to his parents, and when he arrives, he finds that his father is already on the phone to Martha. His father is a somewhat straightforward individual, and he threatens Martha by saying, "You call me again, and I'll come to London and cut your legs off." It transpires that Martha had contacted Donnie's father's workplace, said she was a client, and managed to obtain Donnie's father's mobile number. That exhibits a degree of deviousness on her part. Thereafter, she had not only been calling Donnie's father, but she had also been calling his clients, smearing him by saying that he was a pedo and that he had fiddled with her when she was a child. That's clearly a lie. Is it a lie that she's aware of, or does she believe that lie in the moment? Donnie's father rants at Martha and ends the call. She calls again. This time Donnie answers, and she asks, "Is that you, Reindeer?" One wonders if that's some artistic license, because conceivably, how could she know that he was there, particularly after she had just been speaking to the father? The police then attend, and during this period of time, whilst Donnie spends a week in Scotland, Martha keeps on calling. You need to consider, what is triggering her to keep calling rather? Is there an obsession? Is it necessary for her to try and assert control over Donnie from afar? Or is it something else? Is it part of the delusion that she operates within, that she feels that she has to stay in contact with him? She continues to contact Donnie's father, and he reacts with aggression every time. If she's craving a reaction from somebody, she's certainly getting it. Donnie decides that the police activity is not effective and that he should take matters into his own hands. He waits for her and confronts her. He explains, "Leave my fucking family alone." She denies this by saying, "I don't know what you're talking about." Is this a denial where she knows that she's lying? Or is this a denial where she honestly believes that she hasn't done the thing that she's accused of? Donnie seeks to apply pressure by saying, "If you don't, we'll never be together." She says somewhat rationally, "I thought with the police we weren't on the cards anyway." Donnie then tells her to be quiet, and he bargains with her, saying, "If you leave my family alone, I'll hang your curtains tonight. I want to get it right. So put it in an email what you want me to do. Make it as sick, twisted, and depraved as you can write it." She agrees with this and departs. Interestingly, given the fact that she is preoccupied with him and hasn't seen him for some time, she doesn't want to spend any further time with him. She simply complies with his request and walks off. Martha duly sends the email. Once again, it's poorly spelt. and it's detailing the rough interaction that she craves between her and Donnie. Donnie, believing he's lured her into a trap, then forwards that to the police. It then transpires, when he attends the police station and is interviewed under caution, that she had recorded the conversation. It then further transpires that she's taped almost everything in relation to the interactions that have taken place between her and him. Has this been driven by an excessive level of paranoia? Perhaps this is some kind of control that she's asserting by wanting to ensure that there is a record of every interaction and conversation that they have had. What is interesting, of course, is, was it the case that she carries a dictaphone, for instance, in her pocket at all times, and as soon as she met him, when he turned up out of the blue, she started recording? She would certainly have been taken by surprise in that instance. Or maybe, perhaps, again, there had been some artistic license in that regard with regard to how they met up. Is it the case, perhaps, that these conversations amount to some form of trophy for Martha? We don't know, for instance, what she actually does with them. Is it the case that she listens to them afterwards and derives some kind of enjoyment? Does she feel powerful from acquiring them? Or might it be the case that she's simply doing it because she wants to utilize this information in some way to propagate her own needs? Nevertheless, she has been repeatedly recording everything. And then the police advised Donnie that his behaviour could be seen as entrapment, but that Martha doesn't want to press charges or take action against him. The detective suggests that Donnie apologises to her, and that the police don't want to hear from either of them. Donnie, feeling somewhat backed into a corner, decides to offer an apology and says, "Tell her I'm sorry." Sometime later, Martha turns up at the pub, again where Donnie works. Donnie immediately seeks to enforce a boundary by telling her she can't come in. She ignores this, saying, "You can't stop me." Donnie tries to get other staff members to eject her, but they're not available. She says she'll just sit down. Donnie suggests that he'll call the police. Martha retaliates by stating, "Do it. See how far that gets you." A member of staff then tries to eject her. She erupts at this, shouting, "Don't you fucking touch me. I'm on my period. I've come in here for a glass of water, which is my right to do. You cannot deny a woman hydration when she's coming on. That is illegal." Not only is that nonsensical and deluded, but the way that she erupts, is that a manifestation again of heated, ignited fury as a consequence of the threat to control posed by the staff member? In the alternative, is it the case that she simply reacts because she believes that she has a right to be there, that she believes that she's entitled to the water? Donnie then tells a staff member just to leave it and to ignore Martha. She pours herself a drink of water and then starts to talk to another customer in the pub, triangulating Donnie with this individual. She comments, "I'd wipe that glass if I was you, yeast fingers all over your pint." Martha proceeds to smear Terry in front of Donnie, and then continues to insult Donnie until she invites the customer to look up Donnie's comedy, and she criticises it. Throughout this, Donnie stays silent, simply looking at her. But then, fighting back, he suggests that the customer Googles "serial stalker torments barrister's deaf child." Now, pausing there for a moment, on the assumption that it's accurate that she's done that also, why would she develop a fixation in relation to a barrister's deaf child? Well, this is probably the barrister that she may well have had involvement with in the workplace. And therefore, if this is accurate, it would appear that she would be showing an absence of emotional empathy in tormenting a deaf child in order to get at the barrister. Donnie repeats the parameters of the search, and at this juncture, Martha then smashes a glass against Donnie's head and attacks him, trying to gouge his eyes out. He punches her in self-defense, and a staff member and the customer manage to remove Martha. The application of physical assault follows what appears to be Another instance of heated, ignited fury, that she is unable to deal with the threat of exposure as to what she is. Notice that she clearly knows what such search term would reveal. She didn't respond in terms of saying, I don't know what you're talking about, I don't know what that is. She knew, and she knew full well, what that search would show up. She then responded with physical violence, erupting, showing no emotional empathy for Donnie by assaulting him in that manner. Thereafter, there is a further message from Martha, where she sends an email saying that she's done with Donnie after she sent this email, and then continues to insult him. She tells him to go back to Fife, states that her contacts are considerable and they're all very angry with her. Delusion, triangulation. But then states, P.S. I love you. That never changes. This might suggest compartmentalization on the part of Martha, whereby, in one instance, she demonstrates behavior which is hateful towards him, but then maintains that she loves him. And, of course, she is clearly unable to see the contradiction in what she's stating. Donnie agrees that he won't involve the police about the assault at the pub, at the request of his colleagues, on the basis that they'll agree that they'll keep Martha away. Donnie then makes an appearance at a comedy gig. He dies, and he then engages in a monologue, which involves him talking about being raped by the writer, admits that his confidence is so low he admitted involving Martha in his life, and then explained this is what abuse did. It made him a sticking plaster for life's weirdos. He explained that he knew she was mad, he knew she was dangerous, but she flattered me and that was enough. Thus, the behaviour of Martha continues with regard to showing a complete absence of emotional empathy for Donnie in the way that she continues to stalk, harass and insult him, in relation to his parents by contacting them. Was this a means of an indirect assertion of control? Was it that she felt a frustration that she wasn't able to contact Donnie, and therefore this forced her to look elsewhere to seek the control? Or was it a means of trying to provoke Donnie to get into touch with her because she craved his reaction and involvement? Physical assault occurs. Heated, ignited fury perhaps driving it. She certainly erupts on several occasions, and this shows that the dangerous element of Martha is ramping up, how she just will not stop, that there is this relentlessness of contacting the parents, of confronting Donnie in person, of physically assaulting him, of talking about him in front of other people. In the next part will be the concluding aspect of what we learn about Martha from the show itself, so that we can pull together all of the evidence as has been presented by Richard Gadd playing Donnie to formulate a view as to what she might be. Join me in part 6.